Boys and girls, the origin of the letter Q is actually found way back in Egyptian hieroglyphics, which is fitting since food label packaging and the science of supplements is purposely communicated to consumers in unintelligible hieroglyphics. Here to translate the hieroglyphic hooey into English that y'all can understand plain and clear is the professor of protein. Let's hear it for Ben Quiz.
He's gotten out of control, Bulldog, since you've been on.
I understand Ben, but I didn't understand any of that intro.
Yeah, it was.
Ain't you ever seen All Star Wrestling? You got to warm up the crowd.
Yeah, I didn't get that one.
Dean Okerlund. Oh my!
What do you want to talk about, Ben? Besides video games?
I don't really have much today. I was going to see if you had any questions from the presentation the other night, or elaborate on any of that stuff we could talk about.
Sure. Yeah, I do. I actually do have a couple questions. But first, I want to talk to you about a new, since Bulldog is here. I turned him onto it this week. Mm-hmm. I don't have any graphics, unfortunately, but there is a brand new health product out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a dessert, although it's supposed to be good for you. And it is Pop-Tart ice cream sandwiches.
Oh boy! Wow! Oh gosh! Yeah, just think it can't get any worse. They up it another notch, right?
I know that doesn't sound. Shake your head.
That doesn't sound good. Oh, did you find them?
I'm working on it. Here we go. Well, that's Rice Krispies. Hang on. That won't do it. Here we go. Oh,
nice. Yeah. Margot was reading the reviews. Evidently, they're available at that wonderful health food place, Walmart. And the strawberry, she said, and the chocolate are supposed to be the best, according to reviews. And cinnamon, not so much. So I don't know.
Weird with that kind of food, that super, super sweet food. When you don't eat that food, if you were to try that, it actually tastes. It tastes so artificial and strange. It doesn't even taste good, Yeah, and we had in our break room, which is kind of weird. At one of our gym locations, the one in Mequon, someone had brought in a bunch of eclairs and different donuts for his birthday, which is strange that a trainer would do that. But he brought in these giant boxes, and he was trying to get his clients to eat the donuts.
The clients?
Yeah. So, like, what are you doing? And I was just kind of sitting there reflecting on it. And it's not that I have great willpower or anything, but looking at those things, you probably have to pay me, I don't know, maybe like $300 or $400 to eat one of those. Like, it's like
for one.
Yeah, it just doesn't appeal to me at all. And
they say that Dr. Ben can't be bought, but I think we just heard his price.
$500, I'll eat a donut.
Let's do a GoFundMe for that.
Yeah, it's just so strange. Those foods become so foreign. With those things like the Pop-Tart ice cream sandwich, you can't even really call that a food, right? That has left the planetary system of foods and moved into a new alien world, So,
well, what's the difference between that and a regular ice cream sandwich? I mean, it's still just all sugar and ice cream, right?
I feel like they've taken it up a notch. So when you put that Pop-Tart on, I'm sure that is it 2 Pop-Tarts? There's a Pop-Tart and a Pop-Tart. Right? Yeah, I mean, you can't make that stuff up. Wow.
Someone did.
I mean, who comes up with that? Like, who's like, you know what? How can we make this food even? Oh, yeah, it is. It's 2 Pop-Tarts. Holy crap. Jack, that is way worse than a regular ice cream sandwich.
Oh, and they lost me. They could have had me, Ben, I have to admit. It would have looked good to me if they were just on the strawberry without the frosting. If they would have had those with the ice cream in the middle, that would have been pretty darn good. You don't need that frosting.
That's full-on real Pop-Tarts on either side.
Pop-Tarts come 2 in a pack, so if there was just one on the ice cream sandwich, Americans would feel ripped off.
Where's the other Pop-Tart? Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Well, Bulldog, last night I attended a very scintillating talk on inflammation. It was at Forum Fitness by a fine young Dr. Ben Quist. It was a sellout. The place was jammed.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the biggest crowd we've seen. That was really cool to see everybody come out for that, especially something as like, I'm going to give a talk on chronic inflammation. Does anyone want to come? And I couldn't believe how many people showed up for that.
It's sold out.
AC/DC coming to town, bigger than Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I think it goes to show a lot of people do feel like they are experiencing symptoms of that, whether it be in their joints or, all the other illnesses that it causes. So
I'm so glad you brought that up because
yes.
I was snookered, not really, but I was brought into a 5K walk 2 weekends ago.
Oh boy. Okay.
That's what I thought. And I did it. And so it's about 3 miles and some change, I guess, is what the
Sure.
Through Cedarburg. It was for the breast cancer, Junior Women's League. It was a nice event. I was very concerned because I've done 0.5K in my car and back.
Sure.
A little rusty, shall we say. And I will say I did fine. I told my coworkers they may have to carry me over the finish line, but they did not have to do that. However, the next day, my left knee, speaking of inflammation, grapefruit sized.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Oof,
okay.
wow.
A little painful. It was fine. I did some ice for a couple days, and I just figure it was from lack of use, sudden extreme use, and then no use again.
Yeah.
Whoa. It might have been sudden, but I don't know if 5K walk is extreme, Bulldog.
Jack, I had a few Pop-Tart ice cream sandwiches the night before.
Did
It
they
was
have those
extreme.
instead of water stations? Did they have Pop-Tart ice cream sandwich stations?
Right.
Kellogg's was a co-sponsor. It was wonderful.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
So then, is that something that I should be worried about?
I don't know. I mean, I would just probably ice and elevate, and to see, that.
Which
That's-
I did.
that's
I would
something-
like to be able to use it more this summer without worrying about the grapefruit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Jack just said, it's relative as far as what is a large distance for somebody, because, as you're starting out, you start with smaller distances and then you kind of work your way up. So obviously it was too much for what you have going on in that knee right now. So,
Yes.
the
The answer is a resounding yes.
yeah, so I would start a little shorter distances and, yeah. And have you injured that knee in the past at all? Have you had any?
No, but I notice in the transitory seasons, that being autumn and spring, it gets a little tricky, that left knee. And I don't
Okay.
know if it's why it should be weather related, outside of the fact that meteorologically now I can actually tell you what it's going to do if I talk to my knee.
Okay, interesting.
Service I provide. But yeah, I don't know if that's a change in the pressure or how that works. But yeah, for a few weeks, I've noticed the last couple of years, every spring and fall, I make old man noises in strange places. Stairs, getting into the car is a little operatic for me.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean that would be an example of, if you do have a little bit of inflammation going on in your body, it'd be a good idea to kind of get that out of there. Really all the things that we were talking about last night at the talk, Jack,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, there are many things. The talk was really good, Bulldog. But I wanted to ask you, as long as we have Dr. Ben on, for a while you were telling me you were playing pickleball with your son.
I did.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
and how's that? Did the knee bother you then when you were doing it?
Initially, no, but all that weird lateral movement, because I can't let my son win every time. I did notice he would say, "All right, Dad, let's play our 4th or 5th game," and I kind of had to make that Jerry Lewis noise. No more. It kind of hurts. So yeah, I did notice with extended use and certainly the movement required to return a pickleball across the net for a long time.
Well, I would think the cutting and it would be jarring on your. I don't play pickleball or tennis because my knees can't do the lateral movement.
Yeah.
I just gotta watch it. Ben, you're nodding your head. You were a pickleball fanatic, of course.
Yeah, I love pickleball. Yeah, and it is super hard on your knees. So you're exactly right. Like all the stopping, the turning, the lateral movements, that is all tough stuff on the knee joint. So you gotta, if you're going to play that sport at a higher level, you definitely need to have your knees in good shape. And I see that all the time. I play against people who are excellent racket sport players, but maybe they're a little older or they have a hurt knee or something of that nature, and it's really tough for them because they can't move in the way required that is required to move. And that's probably the only thing I got going for me is I can move really well still. So I can zip around that court like a little bunny rabbit, but I'm not that great at the actual skills, but certainly
it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's funny how you think it's tennis light. That's not exactly it.
I would agree with that statement. There's some things about it that are even maybe a little bit more intensive than tennis, and there have been a lot of injuries from it. As everyone keeps saying, like at the place where I play, somebody in this last series of leagues blew out their gastroc, so the muscle ruptured. Had one guy run into the wall, break the like it's people are hurting themselves.
Jerry Lewis.
But wow. Yeah, it's just so much fun. It's worth hurting yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Ben, for this episode. It's worth hurting yourself.
It's so much fun. It's worth it.
Ben, a couple of things from your talk last night. I took some notes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what is one of the reasons inflammation? I mean, it sounds painful, but one of the big points you made last night was that it affects your immune system, which is everything. I mean, fighting off disease, fighting off aging, fighting off all that. There's a direct correlation between inflammation and that, correct?
A direct correlation between your immune system and inflammation?
Yeah. Does inflammation affect your immune system? Does it weaken it, or does it?
So inflammation is a result of your immune system kind of engaging and attacking something. So whether that is a virus, a bacteria from getting cut, or it's kind of it's your body's like little soldiers that go out, right? The immune system, and then when they go out and they do their thing, inflammation can be caused from that. So they're kind of like the chicken and the egg. They kind of go together. But as we age, like I talked about, unfortunately, our immune cells just start to get worse at being able to identify who they should be attacking. So they start to be more indiscriminate, and they also start to sometimes overreact a little bit. So we just start to get naturally more inflamed, every single year as we age, unless we're having some strategies to kind of combat that. So yes, it is. They're totally interlinked.
They're interlinked. And another big thing that I thought was really interesting was for the first time, I think I understood the stomach and the microbiomes and all that stuff because of the visuals you had with the layers of the stuff. And I couldn't say it now without butchering it, but I understood it when you're, and I think that really helped a lot.
That was the one slide I got that out of that Harvard course I took, and it was the one slide where I finally felt like I understood it, because I didn't really everyone talks about this microbiome down in your intestine, and it's like, well, what is it? Where does it live? What does it look like? And
sounds like a horror movie.
It's almost like Alien. Yeah,
it is a little weird, but. Yeah, that little teeny, bulldog weird, on the slide, really the barrier between what's inside of your colon and then what's outside of your colon is really just one cell layer thick. So it's this very thin layer, and it's just incredible that that keeps everything in, and that layer kind of that is like a gateway between, obviously some things have to come out, we're digesting food and things of that nature, but we don't want bacterial components seeping out, right? But yeah, that was one of my aha moments too, is looking at that slide and really finally kind of understanding it a little bit more, about the single cell layer. Then there's a mucus layer, then there's the microbiome, meaning the bacteria and all the other guys that are living in there. And then what happens? Why is fiber good? Why do we care so much about it? It's when you start to really look into that stuff, you're like, wow, and Bulldog, we were talking a lot the other night about who is correct on these dietary hypotheses of whether or not should you eat a plant forward whole food diet, or should you be eating more of a carnivore diet, or you should be eating more of the Mediterranean diet? Who's right on this thing? And I think I'm starting to get some opinions myself and some clarity on who I think is probably.
Well, we'd like one.
Yeah.
You have an opinion, Ben? You've never
totally.
You're always straddling the fence. You're never jumping off the table or anything during these things. These segments are
Ben. Let's have an opinion.
I don't know.
Who's the doctor you don't like? Who's the guy you said is a big joke? I'm paraphrasing.
He's not a joke. He's just I just think he's an a-hole because he just.
A-hole's worse than a joke, man. I don't know.
It is. I mean, a joke would mean that he's doing it because he's trying to be funny, or maybe he doesn't know. He knows what he's doing, and he's fleecing everybody, and it drives me nuts. That's Dr. Gundry. He wrote the book The Plant Paradox, and he's the guy.
Yeah.
He popularized the concept of lectins, that there are all these components in plants that if you eat them, they're going to just destroy your gut and cause inflammation and all kinds of problems. Like, he doesn't want you eating oatmeal. He doesn't want you eating bananas. He doesn't want you tomatoes. God forbid you eat a tomato, you'll explode. It's just like he is the. And by the way, he also sells, of course, lectin blockers that you can take a convenient capsule to stop all the problems, or whatever perceived problem he's come up with. And he's very articulate, and he is a medical doctor. He was a very successful cardiac surgeon, and invented some medical devices. He's very, very smart. And when you hear him speak, he can kind of make you. There you go.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Yes.
He's incredibly convincing, but nothing's for free with him. Every single thing, it's like, okay, well, here, now buy this special powder, now buy this pill, buy this oil, and it just, that kind of stuff drives me nuts. Because first of all, I categorically disagree with about 50% of what he says. I think he is massively misleading the population. And then he's making money off of everybody. He actually thinks, the last time I looked it up, he's worth $70 million. And not that there's anything wrong with making money, but if you're going to do it, don't do it off the expense of, like, did you hear that lady in the audience? She's like, should I ever have a tomato? And then she seemed all scared. And like, I mean, the fact that you're getting scared of a tomato when we have things like Pop-Tart ice cream sandwiches out there, that just blows my mind that we're even having that discussion, or like we talked about last night, where there's all this intense argument on the web about whether you should be eating oatmeal or not. And of course, Dr. Gundry does this. You shouldn't. Don't eat oatmeal. It's the worst thing ever. Why are we even having that discussion when our supermarket aisles are filled with boxed cereals that are some of the worst things you could possibly put in your body? So I just feel like they are confusing people, and they are distracting them from what the real problem is.
Sadly, those Plant Paradox books do fly off the Cedarburg Library shelves.
I'm sure they do. I read it too back when I didn't really know anything about anything. And oh my God, this guy's figured it all out. He sounds so smart. And then when you start to really dig a little further, you're like, he's full of shit. I don't know.
His microbiome's not working right.
Yeah, he's not. I don't know. He particularly gets my goat. I don't like him.
Jack, make a note that whenever we want to get his goat, we got to boost. That's important.
There's a lot of great food scientists out there. There's a lot of great people with giving really good information.
What was the guy's name? You said Dr. somebody you liked.
Dr.
Gill? Dr. Gill?
Yeah, Dr. Gill. I thought that, I just love the fact that, like, he will give you the entire breadth of the research on things, and he never is like, so with somebody like, and there's many of these people, like, I don't mean to keep saying Dr. Gundry's name. There's many of these people online, they will tell you stuff that they are absolutely certain that they know the truth on this. They will tell you 100%, when in reality, many times what they're saying to you is their opinion. Because many of these things, like even something as simple as, like, should you eat oatmeal or not, some of that is an opinion, right? So I can't stand it when they come out there and they try to tell millions and millions of people that they have figured it out somehow, that they are so smart and they have these gigantic brains. And it's like, well, no, you don't really, and the way you're presenting it, you're not even presenting the research, it just.
They have gigantic balls to say stuff like that. That's what, right. That's what they have.
Yeah, and many times those people are making gigantic paychecks, so it's like, and I have no problem with someone making money. I would just prefer them not to confuse the American public on food, because food is one of the things that if you don't get that right, it's going to put you in the grave a lot faster. Yeah. And it's also going to make your life a lot less enjoyable, because you're chronically inflamed, you're overweight, you can't move well. Like food affects so many different things, if it's not handled right. And right now, as a country, we are getting an F- on the way we're doing food. And you guys you illustrated it with that first thing that you brought up. You're getting an F-. I give America an F- on food.
F is as low as you're allowed to go.
No, we get worse.
F-. I knew it. I was waiting for an F, but an F-. That was impressive, Ben.
Well, Derek, I guess the only direction to go is up.
That's true. That's a way to put a positive spin on it. It can only get better from here.
See what you brought out of him. See what you bring out, Dr. Ben.
You guys, I was kind of tired when I got. Now you got me all fired up. I'm trying to calm down. It's Friday.
Go kill somebody in pickleball.
Friday afternoon.
I'm not sure I have this right, Ben. A couple more. Bulldog, you wanted to say something. I'm sorry.
No, you go. Go ahead.
Okay. Was it GRAS? GRAS? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. And what is that? I thought that's hilarious. What that stands for.
So when they look at a food additive, natural, there's a whole category called natural flavoring, or they.
Yes.
They look at some of the additives or chemicals that they're going to put into a product that you're going to put on your skin. They have a designation called generally recognized as safe, or GRAS. So I was just curious. We have so many chemicals that we're eating and that we're putting into our bodies. There must be this like giant laboratory that the government has where they're searching and making sure that these chemicals are safe for you to put in your body. And then as I looked into what that designation meant, it actually is that the manufacturer of the food or the self-care product just submits information to the government, says, here's why we think this is safe. And then the FDA kind of rubber stamps it and boom, it's ready to go. There is the person manufacturing the product tells the government that it's safe. And tell me why that wouldn't work. I mean,
that's a perfect system.
It's the dumbest thing ever. Like I said last night, it's like having the fox in charge of the hen house. It's like, oh, of course it's safe. We checked into it.
I would just like to commend anybody who ever got the word generally as part of a designation of any
generally kind. I know that doesn't sound good. It's generally
recognized about anything.
We're having a meeting next week. We're going to change it to virtually.
It might be cut a little close.
Yeah, and some of these things are definitely not safe. Even like microplastics, and like there's so many different chemicals that some of these things are not safe, and that's why I love that Yucca app, and I kind of check everything out myself. I thought that was a good question. Someone asked who were the designers of the Yucca app. Are these guys? Should we believe that they are? I mean, I don't know. You can only dig so far and know so much, right? You got to trust some people.
That's how you knew you got through, Ben. I thought that was great because you were questioning all these other sources, and then you introduced this Yucca app, and so the audience finally got through the picture of we should question everything. So someone says, "Who designed that?" Ben's like, "They're in France."
Yeah, I mean, especially anything related to processed foods, chemicals that you're putting in your body, drugs. Like you should question everything.
Les American décadence.
I think Europeans do it better than we do. I mean, they have. I mean, I think they've done a better job of keeping their food. What's that? We hate them. Yeah, we hate them. I know they're such cocky bastards. But they have done a better job of keeping their food source clean and legitimate, and where we have just been like, we just jumped off the cliff. I had the stat. I think I shared that last night. 73% of the volume of food of food that a child here in America eats is ultra processed food, which basically means it's not food. Okay, so that 73% of what they're putting in their body
is generally food.
It's just, and that's horrible because all of the three of us, we didn't get that when we were kids. We had a lot more normal food, natural food, less chemicals going into our bodies. We are having a giant experiment now on our children where we are putting all this crap, and we're already seeing the outcome. We're seeing it used to be called adult onset diabetes, and it's not adult onset anymore. It's happening in children now. So we're seeing all these things already starting to shift much earlier into the lifespan. So that's why I give America an F-.
And not to get political, because that's just dangerous now, but
Yeah.
And I think, and I'll come right out and say it. I think he's a total wackadoodle. But RFK Jr. right now is getting some ink because he's talking about food additives.
Yep.
And of course, a broken clock is correct twice a day, as they say. He's probably right on with that. I mean, I think it's unassailable. What his thought process is there. God only knows what he'll do with it. But,
no, I do agree. I think shining some light on that and having someone in the government who is looking at some of that stuff, I think is wonderful. So I hope there's some progress with that.
I think he also wants us to eat live rattlesnakes or something too. I mean, so there's
I did hear him say that he wanted to put there's some politician friend of his that really needs to get in shape. He's like, I'm going to put him on the carnivore diet.
There you go.
That's of course my least favorite diet. I think that is
that's very big right now. I'm getting questions in the library about books on that. I was like, we need a book for it. Go eat some cow.
Just go eat meat. Yeah, just eat meat continuously. Yeah, that study that we talked about last night was one of the most fascinating studies I have seen come out in a long time. That one about the ketogenic men and heart disease.
And ketogenic is the carnivore diet, basically, right, Ben?
It's just a high fat diet. So it'd be, typically ketogenic diets are lots of fat, lots of protein, almost no carbohydrate. And there's varied ways to do them. You can do them where they're, in my opinion, slightly more healthy, and there's ways to do them that are really, really unhealthy. But there was that study of the 100 men that had been on ketogenic diets for a period of time and were healthy. And they measured them for heart disease, and then they kept them on the ketogenic diet, and they remeasured to see how much plaque they had in their arteries. And they were trying to prove that these diets are safe, and it doesn't matter that they shoot your cholesterol through the roof and cause all these, weird blood markers. And it was actually funded. It was crowdsourced by a national ketogenic organization. So they had a vested interest in proving that, and they of course told everyone that they did. But then when you looked at what happened with it, 99 of the 100 guys, and these were guys in their 50s, had heart disease at the start of the study, which that's weird. If you look at a population of 100 men, you just randomly pick out of America on various diets, maybe 40 of them will have heart disease. Maybe the other 60 won't. It's not typically like everybody has it. So they all had it. And then over the course of the year, they all got worse, it's just my gosh, that resoundingly proved that something is going to
generally, Ben, I think
virtually,
out of the 1%, that generally means it's not 100%.
At which time the National Ketogenic Society disbanded.
I know.
Everybody.
The thing of it is, they just can't stop themselves. They just keep bringing it back. So it was the Banting diet back in the last century. Then it was the Atkins diet. Then it was the Bulletproof diet. Then it's the carnivore diet. They can't help themselves. And I think all of us, because to tell you the truth, I said that in the presentation last night. If I had my choice, if I was just going to eat whatever I wanted, I would be a carnivore diet person. I eat hot dogs for breakfast. I'd eat meat tastes great. It's wonderful. It's just that for many people, not going to say everybody, because there are some people who are very resistant to disease, but for many people, eating a diet where you're eating all meat with massive levels of saturated fat and all the other things that we talked about last night, it can cause some serious problems, serious health problems over time. So
I suspect the carnivore diet in their minds, because it does seem to be men, it links into some kind of bulking up, and I know what they're after.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, another key thing opposite of the carnivore diet, Ben, which I thought you brought up was good. People then start eating fiber, and people have it's almost like once you decide you're going to eat healthy, then you go nuts on it, and you eat too much. And you had said, if you introduce too much, the way I understood it, my interpretation of what you said was, if you eat too much fiber foods right away, instead of introducing it gradually into your diet, the fiber will it'll backfire on you. Not exactly like the carnivore, but it's not good for you either. You have to layer it in or something. I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. So like the microbiome, the bacteria in your gut eat the fiber. Fiber is a non-digestible carbohydrate, is a carbohydrate that we can't digest and utilize for fuel ourselves, but the bacteria in your gut digest it and they eat it. So if you have a damaged microbiome, meaning it's not very diverse, you don't have, as many bacteria as somebody who has maybe more diverse, more robust, more vibrant microbiome, and you throw down a whole bunch of fiber, you just don't have, your bacteria are not up for the challenge of digesting all of that. And it can actually cause, gut upset and inflammation and different problems. So you got to go slow with that. And the thought process of seeding your gut with the good bacteria first, which would be the implementation of the fermented foods, that's where, that one study I shared about the individuals who added the fermented food versus the other group that added extra fiber, and the fermented food group did really, really well in their inflammatory markers. And part of that is they're just throwing a bunch of bacteria into their gut that are beneficial. So having some, Franny's Market has a great coconut kefir, putting some of that in with your whatever you're having for breakfast. And then, maybe you have a little bit of sauerkraut or kimchi or, you have some kombucha tea or whatever it might be. But I have been trying to get some fermented food with every meal that I can in my kind of diet.
And fermented food, it's yogurt, it's sauerkraut, it's a number of different things that people don't understand necessarily what fermented food is.
Beer.
And if you don't have,
actually, beer is a fermented, 100%. It is a fermented food. I don't know if it has. I'd be curious about that, Bulldog. We should look into that. If that does help reseed your gut with good bacteria. I don't know the answer to that.
Live forever.
I'll do some research this weekend. I'll let you know.
I'm going to do that in about 2 hours.
A diverse. Now, when you say a diverse microbiome, that's like not just strawberry Pop-Tart ice cream sandwiches, it's chocolate ice cream sandwiches, Pop-Tarts, and all the different flavors, right?
Right.
Balance.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Actually, it's funny that Jack mentioned that, because I was going to say that it sounds like balance is key. It's like, even like when you're going to, a little meat, a little fiber. If you're going to cheat and slam one of those Pop-Tart things, a pox upon it, but let's move on. So just balance it out and don't be an idiot.
And that's a really good point.
Okay. I'm worried about
That's a really good point. One of the main part of the talks last night was about this system where they evaluate whether your diet is inflammatory or not. And it really is. It's the whole. It's all the parts you put into it create the whole, right? So if you have a reasonable amount of meat, and the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate recommends 1 serving of meat a day, it's not going to have a lot of those negative effects of someone who's having 10 servings of meat a day.
Right.
So. But yeah, trying to get in as a total diet enough of the good foods that are going to be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Everything old is new again. They always said balanced diet when we were kids. So, here we are.
Right.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is it was a sellout. I felt young compared to, I would say, the average age of the crowd. Now, the only reason I bring that up, well, I like to poke fun at everybody, but the other reason I bring it up is it's, to me, it's, I don't know, a shame. The younger people think they don't have to worry about that shit yet.
Yeah.
It's for you old guys. You guys, now you're getting near the end. You got to take care of yourself. But it's just like stretching. You have to start that sooner rather than later, and getting, somehow we got to get the younger people in that thought process before it's like, I can do it now, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I totally agree with you. I'd love to see people in their 30s and 40s, 20s starting to embrace this stuff more. And some people are, of course, but they don't have health problems yet, so it's really hard for them to relate. And that's why I think you see that the average age in that room is probably 65, and it's usually the people 50 up. When you get into your late 40s or 50s, that's where all these things start catching up to you of the decades of abusing your body, and the wheels just fall off the bus, and it starts to get scary. When your doctor's like, oh man, you have diabetes, or you're at risk for keeling over a heart attack at any moment. Like, that's where it gets real. And it's like, okay, well, but if you would if you do some of these things a little bit younger, you wouldn't even get to that point, where that would happen, and then it's a little bit harder to reverse it or stabilize it, so, but I agree. I got to do a better job of communicating to the younger members that these are talks that they should participate in too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was interesting. It was a great talk. It was good. Bulldog, I summed it up. I made notes on it. I'll pass it along.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I may have just changed my dinner plans tonight. You won't get into what I was planning.
Right.
Kraut and Coors.
Yeah, right.
Balance.
Both fermented, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Perfect.
All right. Anything else, Ben? Anything else going on at the gym that's coming up?
No, not much. Everything's just plugging away there. It's been really busy, so it's been great.
They got this new thing, the DECA Challenge. That's an interesting thing for people who want to test their fitness. It's really cool. Tomorrow they're having a trial run at 6 a.m. Margo and I are gonna give it a whirl.
Are you gonna go?
Yeah.
It should be. I mean, if you want to have something where you want to just compete in something, physical, where it's not very dangerous, which is good.
Yeah.
It's not like the Tough Mudder where you're jumping over walls and people are blowing out knees.
This is the skydiving championship next week. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like that. So we're going to see how it's going to go. But that should be something a lot of younger members, I think, who will be getting. Possibly we'll see a lot more of the younger folks doing that.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. Cool. Awesome. All right, Ben. Bulldog, you have any other things to add about the letter Q? I mean, you're a librarian, for God's sakes. What are you? I'm the one doing the letter history here. You're falling down. You're
all the letters, it's definitely one of them.
right. It's in there, right?
I think the hieroglyphic connection is perfect for Ben and his passion about decoding the hieroglyphics of the health food industry and supplements.
I know.
Jack, it's Friday. Stop.
I can't stop. I can't
too
stop.
Much,
He's got me going. He's got me going, man.
Whatever conspiracy theories Jack is trying to add to your name.
right. Too much.
Gasoline on the fire. Inflammable.
I was talking about the Illuminati and Ben. We know we were going too far.
Right.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Ben. Have a great weekend.
Yep. Good to see you, Bulldog.
Remember, moderation.
That is right, guys.
And